Father Coyne, this program is directed towards the 200th anniversary of Darwin's birth and the 150th of the origin of species. You've emerged as a sort of spokesman for a sort of one side in the Catholic Church on the evolution issue. It's, as you've just told me, it's also an anniversary of Galileo, and it's quite recently that the Vatican has actually, in some sense, forgiven Galileo. It looked as though Pope John Paul was sort of thoroughly on board with Darwin, but are things backsliding a bit now?
I don't think you can characterize it that way. First of all, anything that I've said publicly or in my writings is George Coyne speaking.
Yes, of course.
By the way,
yes,
please call me George. That's
George.
what my mother called me when I behaved myself. I
Richard.
grew up not knowing my name.
Yes.
But no, I think you would characterize it wrongly by thinking that I am a spokesman for the Catholic Church.
Oh, no, I never said that. I said you were a spokesman for one strand of thought within the Catholic
Church. Not even then.
Church.
I think I fit into one strand, but I have no official position. But mind you, that's not terribly important. It's what we think.
Okay.
And I think that's terribly important to recognize right at the beginning, that the Catholic Church is often thought of as being very monolithic in its thinking. The point is there are very great divergences acceptable within the Catholic tradition. There is no Catholic point of view on many things. There are on many things, but on evolution there is no what I would call official Catholic view. The point I've taken in the recent debate is that sometimes churchmen present a view as if it were the official Catholic position, where it is not, and that view sometimes establishes kind of a conflict between religious doctrine, Catholic thinking, and modern scientific evolutionary theory.
Okay.
And so I felt an obligation in recent times to speak out as I was director of the Vatican Observatory at the time, so I had an official position. No, I've retired as of a year ago.
Okay. Could you then tell us what your own position as George Coyne is on evolution and intelligent design?
Okay, my position as George Coyne, and I think it represents a significant number of Catholic scientists, is the following: that the best scientific explanation we have of the origin of the universe and everything in the universe, including all living systems and ourselves, is by what I call neo-Darwinian evolution. And I think we all know what we mean by that. That is that the whole theory of Darwin, modernized with genetic mutation, natural selection, and all of that, I think is the best scientific explanation we have of these origins that I spoke of.
Well, I clearly agree with that. And I believe that Pope John Paul II would have agreed with that as well.
In that amount of detail, I couldn't say. I don't think he would have disagreed. He certainly said very officially in a very official document to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences that evolution is no longer a mere hypothesis, that from many of the scientific disciplines, it's now what I call the best explanation we have. By the way, I use the word, and you tell me if you agree or not with me on this point, the best scientific explanation we have of the origins of the universe and everything in it. I avoid the word theory.
Yes, me too.
Because certainly in American English, theory gets the idea of it's only a theory.
Yes.
It's someone's idea,
yes,
where it is the best scientific explanation, and it does not at all contrast with any Catholic teaching.
Right, okay. Would the present Pope agree with that, do you think?
I can't speak for him. I can only think about him, and I would say he would agree with that. That as the best scientific explanation, it does not contrast with any doctrinal statements or theology of the Catholic Church.
Right.
I think he would agree with
Yes.
that. Yes.
But that wouldn't be the view of the Archbishop of Vienna, with whom you've
Well,
crossed
it
swords.
wouldn't have been, as of about, to my knowledge, as of about 2 days ago. I just received a pre-publication book that has come out by Cardinal Schönborn. It's the report, it's an anthology of a series of lectures he gave in Vienna subsequent to the bit of controversy that arose from his New York Times op-ed article. And the book is excellent. I think had he said this and not said what he did in the New York Times op-ed article, I would have no problem with it.
Very interesting. So in what way does it differ from the New York Times?
Well, he speaks of what I think essentially, it's very hard to characterize the whole book in a few words, but if I were, it would be he's very carefully distinguishes what he calls evolutionism from evolution. He calls it a theory, so I'll use that word, the scientific theory of evolution. And what he means by that, and I agree with him totally on this, is to take the best scientific explanation we have and extend it beyond the science, is what he calls evolutionism. That is, to reduce, for instance, to reduce the human being to a material object in the universe and fail to recognize that from other disciplines outside of science, there is a much richer, if I can use that word, richer view of the human endeavor. That is, religion, culture in general, literature, poetry. I mean, the human being is not made of just what scientists discover the human being is made of. Scientists, in the very strict methodology of science, the human being is more than what methodologically science can discover.
If we're talking about poetry, which you've just mentioned, then there is a sense in which anybody would have to accept that that's true. However, there are many scientists who would say that there's nothing actually supernatural in the human makeup. Poetry is something which emerges from brain stuff in a way that we certainly don't understand in any detail. But I think they'd probably want, I certainly would want to make a distinction between acknowledging that on the one hand and trying to bring in something supernatural on the other.
The idea of bringing in something supernatural, I think, is a caricaturization of what religious faith is all about. A scientist or any other human being can accept or deny the supernatural. But what you cannot do is on scientific, strictly methodological scientific grounds, deny the supernatural.
No, I think I agree you can't actually deny it, but isn't it then part of a very large population of things that you can't deny, for which there's no positive evidence? I mean, you can't deny fairies at the bottom of the garden, but neither of us take it seriously. So
positive evidence is a key word here, I
yes,
think.
but is there any?
Oh, there sorely is positive evidence for
Okay.
the supernatural, but it goes